welcome to the SolarCoaster, a renewable energy themed talk show right here in lovely Maui County. Aloha, Mr. Verkart. Snap, snap for the sink.
Oh, we're just hanging out, little gazebo. Back on Maui, having a good time. The weather's gorgeous.
It is beautiful. It's the middle of summer. It's July. It's June still, but it feels like July 4th weekend is pretty much upon us. Just had the Makawao parade. Beautiful parade. First time they did it in 3 years. So, and Jay and I wanted to sit down and talk a little bit about the upcoming year. What's happening in SolarCoaster land, what's happening in RE+, what's happening in RE+. And we're excited about a lot of things that are happening in renewable energies. But, starting out with this idea of kind of, we just came off of course, a very successful RE+ Hawaii in January in Honolulu. Yeah. 700-800 attendees, way beyond anyone's expectations. And I think that speaks a lot to how relevant Hawaii is in the greater renewable energy conversation.
Just the appetite for the conversation. Yeah. Everybody that I knew, and a lot of people I didn't, like we had people coming from Mainland as far as, I met the guys from Texas, Right. There's a lot to be learned here, but even from each other. And I think that was really the message at the show. Like, we've got a lot to talk about, and how do we facilitate that conversation was the biggest message I walked away with.
It's huge. And then, of course, Hawaii Energy Conference was just in May. It's June right now, about 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
Hawaii Energy Conference 11th anniversary show. And, of course, it's coming off of the most devastating wildfire in the history of the United States, Hana.
Yep.
And, of course, everything is colored by that now.
Yep.
And energy is kind of, inextricably linked to the whole conversation of what happened in the fire, and then how we're going to rebuild in a different and maybe better way, but honoring the past.
There's a real opportunity, and it's so hard to say because of the scale of the tragedy.
Yeah.
But we have the opportunity to rebuild something better, safer. We can do it stronger, better, faster. And just how do we do that? As you say, with respect to not just the tragedy, but the culture, history, the old capital, Lahaina town. It is a treasured landmark of the islands, and I want to see that continue forever, in perpetuity.
Yeah, I think one of the conversations that I heard a lot after the fire, and throughout the last year, was we'd focused a lot on carbon, on decarb. We focused a lot on getting our renewable energy systems deployed, RFP phase 1 through 3 over the last decade and whatever. We focused a lot on residential, C&I, and then utility scale. We just had the AES system inaugurated or turned online, permission to operate just a couple weeks ago. It's a huge one of the largest ones in Maui.
Yep.
Things like that are happening around the islands. So we have a time where we're seeing some progress, but perhaps not as much as we'd like. One of the things that we didn't really hear a lot about, wasn't really a tremendous focus on, was safety. And so the issue of safety and how we create energy security, which is part of the safety conversation.
Sure.
Resilient grids is a possible idea. How we do it cost effectively. Those are the conversations that came out of Hawaii Energy
that safety
Conference.
goes both ways, right? You have the safety of transmission, propagation. You also have safety as in your own personal security, energy security. And they're
personal energy
not,
security.
as I always say, none of these things exist in isolation, but there needs to be some compromises there. I think the traditional model we've known for a long time is kind of going to go away. And
PUC is having hearings and discussions on wheeling as we speak.
Yep.
Public Utilities Commission here.
For those that don't know, wheeling is it's actually illegal in county, Maui state.
I believe the state.
I believe it's the state. Okay. So to transmit energy over tax map key lines. Yeah. So any TMK, you're not allowed to take energy. And for all intents and purposes, for the longest time, I've been saying it's kind of a joke because as soon as you drive an electric vehicle across your driveway, you're in violation.
Yeah. It's a granted monopoly, that's been around for 100 years or whatever.
Yep.
I'm not sure the exact dates, but that is now with the ability to uh, generate, store, consume our own loads, mitigate our bills from the grid across, all resi and C&I. The power capabilities, the robustness is there.
Yep.
And then at the same time, we're looking at transportation, being able to fulfill our transportation needs. EVs work fantastic in a place like Maui.
Sure.
We have been using and trialing the Tesla Model Y that my wife Susie has. Actually, more recently, the FSD rollout, we drove that all around, or not more accurately, the robot drove us around all around Maui
Yep.
On sunshine.
You showed me
I'll
that
add to
video. I was a little concerned, but
I was concerned in the car.
You're still here.
Road to Hana, man. That's going to be the first. Road
Okay.
to Hana FSD.
I will wait for your report.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Unbelievable experience, really.
Sure.
So all of this ties together. So in a world where we have access to that for our own homes, I'm even seeing AWGs, atmospheric water generations atmospheric water generators around town.
Right.
Like 10 kW load ones, 300 gallon a day ones.
Big
I'm seeing
deployments,
them.
and that's
Yeah.
something that people don't generally understand. We talk about electricity constantly, we talk about solar constantly, wind constantly, but water is a big deal
Yeah,
here.
big
It
deal.
really is hard. It's practically impossible to get a new water meter
Yeah,
to get
upcountry.
on
Upcountry, it's ugly.
you just can't.
Yeah.
So having these technologies available is just
Yeah, so all of this is
Godsend.
here, and that actually kind of goes right back to the conversation of wheeling and the granted monopoly, because if we have the ability to produce our own energy at this level, our own fuel our own transportation needs, even produce our own water, it's like we start to have our own infrastructure systems here.
Right.
That's a very
Right.
real thing. And the next piece of that, of course, is Bidi. We've talked about this like crazy, but we're just on
Here
the
we
heels of
go.
an announcement from Rivian saying that they're going to enable bidirectionality in their amazing trucks. And I was a Ford guy for sure because I like the F-150, the Lightning's great.
You've had yours
driven it.
forever, and I
Yeah.
just assumed that you already had your pre-order in. You told
No.
me.
Yeah, no, I think Rivian, we drove a Rivian. We toured one in LA when we were dropping our daughter off at college. And I'll tell you what, that truck is just it's like a work of art. It's kind of like I tend to think about all the advances that Tesla made in the car space. I feel like Rivian made it in the truck space. And, at the end of the day, Ford, I love the Ford, but the Ford is really, by the CEO's own admission, they essentially they farmed out a lot of the EV parts and strategies and software, and they're going to have to go through a major evolution. As beautiful as the F-150 Lightning is, driven it enough to know that there's a lot more nuance and a lot more kind of cool stuff that I like in the Rivian, but I wouldn't have gotten it because they hadn't until recently, as far as I knew. Well, yesterday I read the article.
Yep.
Had the potential for bidirectionality. So you're going to start out with something like 12 kW, find their way up to 22
It's
kW.
okay. So people that have taken those cars apart, trucks, taken them apart, it really looked like bidirectionality was in the design from the get-go. That was what they were aiming for. But Rivian wouldn't make a comment on it at all, one way or the other. And only now with this, they're saying, yes, it's in there, it's software locked, so you're going to be able to. And this is all Gen 1, Gen 2 R1s and the R2. So
If you have
every
it, it's
vehicle they've ever
possible.
made.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. What an exciting time that we're living in. And, there's other things happening, of course. The power capabilities and the energy capabilities of the new Gen 3 Powerwall is very exciting.
Yep.
That's kind of showing the outer limits of the potential of these residential systems, I think. I did notice a while back that Tesla picked up an inductive charging company.
Yes.
There was an acquisition, I believe, at one point. That says to me that's all about that automation, because how are you going to get out there and charge it if the car's
It's still the big conversation for Mainland. So you said here, range anxiety really isn't too much of a thing. We've abundant solar energy if you're charging from your own panels, and it really doesn't bother anybody. The island's only 28 miles wide. You can't go that far.
Yeah. You get great regen going down.
Yeah, you basically gain miles as you go down the hill, get all that potential energy back. But it's very, very different. And Tesla years ago showed the big automated unbolt the battery from the car and shift you down through. It was like a car wash type assembly. Whatever happened to that? It's just not really possible. I think a lot of people, like, I bought a car and I bought the battery in the car, and I don't want somebody else's battery that may have been abused. That was a big.
sure.
That was the first thought that went
Yeah,
through my
that's
head. It's
understandable.
like the battery becomes a commodity as opposed
Yeah.
to. So I'm not paying for it. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to swap that out on me,
Just give me the shell.
yeah, right, yeah.
Interesting. So on the heels of all of this activity, all of these, relevant events happening here in Maui, and then all of this technical rollout, our lives are impacted here. I'm
Yep.
actually living temporarily here.
I mean, it's something else people really don't understand about Hawaii. You get pictures of Waikiki Beach, which is
Right.
hot and palm trees and lots of suntan oil, lots of tourists. Hawaii's very vertical in reality. There's a number of islands. There's a lot of places where there's a lot less population, and the higher you go, I mean, you can go up as high as like you need a jacket.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And
Cool,
people,
5,000, 6,000
some people prefer to live up there, which is
foot
fine.
elevation. Yeah.
I like it. I like it right around here. I think I agree with you. Where you just maybe need a little sweatshirt in the morning, but about 9:30, like you really don't want it anymore.
Too good. They don't want to hear about that. But in any case, this is a special place where you can generate your own energy.
Yep.
And we've gone through that process. We had the opportunity to be here. I had the opportunity to run a solar installation business for about 9 years.
Yep.
And that's not exactly how we met, but I did do the solar installation on this beautiful property. Sun Powers, I remember, and Solar
Yep.
Edge, right?
Yep.
So a grid-tied system that's been saving money for years here. And over the years, then I was able to ultimately, get into the SolarCoaster so we could dive deep into the world of renewable energies. We did that for 7 years.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
hard to believe, right? 7 years
okay.
of solar coastering. And that encompassed a whole bunch of stuff that we never would have thought of. But when two guys can say, "Hey, you want to go to that trade show in Munich?" and the other one's like, "Yeah," and then you go. Before
Be
you know
excited about it.
you're doing
like,
it.
It's gonna be a thing, and they've every single one of those trips has been an event.
It certainly has. Yeah, from California to Europe to going cross country.
Fusion reactors,
Fusion reactors.
RVs.
A lot of
you
stuff,
name
guys.
it.
A lot of stuff,
You
guys.
name it.
It's kind of crazy looking back on it. But once the pandemic hit, we were kind of locked in our houses in this environment here. We got into installing the technology, testing and living with the technology. We got involved with load control panels. We got
Yep.
involved with integrated EV charging. We got involved with finally got a hold of an EV.
Yep.
We got involved with the really robust DC coupled system, solar plus battery.
And just to be clear, none of this is sponsored content or anything else. I mean, this is literally just things that we have decided over time that would be a good fit for our lives and purchased on our own.
That's not entirely true, Jay. There's a handful of technology that
There's
was
something that you
was
got. I
given-
didn't get any of those.
that was
Okay, fine.
given- Just to be clear, there some were our choices, some were hey, they showed up. Why don't you try them out?
Okay.
But in any case, we had this opportunity to live with as homeowners.
Yep.
These systems, grid-tied systems like we have here,
Yep.
self-supply solar plus battery systems like I have at my house up the street, integrated EV charging like we had when Susie got a hold of the Tesla. And we're really looking forward to the next stages, which of course are things like atmospheric water generation, because what does that got to do with energy? Well, I have a catchment system. I don't have unlimited water, so if
Yeah.
I can take some of that excess energy,
Yeah,
and then
even if you do have
generate a little bit.
unlimited water, it's still very expensive. So
I
yeah,
was-
why? I mean, anything to offset that. If you have extra photons,
Yeah.
what do
I
you
had
use them for?
hands-on these, right? Okay, these AWGs. I'm very excited about it.
Nice,
It
nice.
looks like a very expensive piece of kit, actually.
That's
But
funny.
in any case, prices come down.
Yeah, my question to you is then, what do you want to do now?
Yeah, what do we do now? After all,
What do you
want
wanna
to
do?
What do you want to do? What do you want to do? So we actually have I think, a pretty interesting update, and it's a great opportunity for us as a family on a personal level. My daughter's in university. I've talked about that on the show in the past. Yep, she's doing fantastic, and our moms are retired here, and they're healthy and happy. So we don't really need to be in Maui for the first time in a decade and a half.
That's still just
almost
you,
2
but yeah.
decades. Me, right, Josh.
I got a couple more years of high school left.
So that being said, what we decided to do out here in Maui right now, there's an affordable housing crisis. There's a lot of stacked on problems in Maui because of the fire that were already kind of in place, and they've been exacerbated because of the fire. We have problems with the economy, problems with tourism. By the way, if you want to help Maui, come to Maui and be a visitor. And,
Yeah, absolutely. I
invest
mean,
your time and your vacation money here.
Lahaina was a difficult thing to deal with, but that's not the only town on island. There's so much more to do.
Yeah.
So many more places to see. Go up.
please come to Maui. That's just
Of course.
a general call out by the SolarCoaster guys. So with that reality in place, we decided to take our home, the home you've seen on the program, up in Makawao, just up the street from Jason here, and we enrolled it in a program for a family that was impacted by the wildfire. It's a federal program. And so we've got a lovely family in the house right now, beautiful daughter running around chasing butterflies, mom's showing up occasionally, the dad's there. We've gotten to know him. He's a really sweet guy, an artist. And he said some beautiful things about the property and about how grateful he is to be a part of it. And I'm like, well, I'm grateful that you're there.
Yeah.
Because it gives us the opportunity to take advantage of some things in our lives at this odd juncture, odd timing, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now that our house is rented out, and luckily we got some time here in this beautiful place as we get ready to roll, we are going to do some traveling around the world and basically go spend some time in other environments, learn and maybe a few months at a clip, and learn from just what's the culture like. It's been since we were in our 20s that we used to travel a lot.
Sure.
We travel for business now, but it's never been like, let's go and be in a spot for a while. So we're probably going to spend some time in South America, in Brazil, where Susie's family is. We've been wanting to do that for a while. And we're probably going to spend some time in the mainland U.S. around some friends and family in Pacific Northwest, most likely. And then also some time in northern Italy, around in Europe. That seems to be the most likely scenario, those types of environments. We may be involved in some trade shows and some conferences.
Maybe.
That's a discussion point right now, but we are definitely going to continue the SolarCoaster exploration in these environments. And what I'm excited about is we've had a chance to see the rollout of renewables in Hawaii, to do the SolarCoaster, and then to live with the technology. Now it's like, how is that happening in other environments around the world?
Right.
How is that happening in Europe? We just saw a piece on heat pumps, and we thought, oh God, that's probably going to that might really take off in Japan. That might really take off in Europe. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Exactly that. I mean, it was specific to New York, but they all have a lot of historic buildings or buildings that can't be refurbished for whatever reason. They have ancient radiator systems, and I use the word ancient.
Right.
But my thought immediately went to Europe, where you have these tremendously pristine classic buildings, protected. How could they possibly deal with updating an energy system like what we're currently deploying? I mean, it's just not possible. This whole heat pump thing just immediately looks like something that they should gravitate right to. But I want to know, first of all, do they know about it? Can we bring it to their attention? And what else do they have?
Yeah. Yep. And then of course, when you think about something, so there's technology that can be, when we think about our home here, we're a bit privileged. We get a lot of sun. We've got relatively small, ranges to drive. You alluded to earlier. We have the ability to produce a lot of energy, and we don't need maybe as much. We don't have extremes in heat and cold.
Right.
How do these things play out in other environments around the world, and how do technologies that we've experienced here and new ones that are rolling out? I think bidirectionality is probably going to be a real big player in this. And what I will say to you, before we even get into the idea of environments that we don't understand, Japan, you live in Japan. I've lived in Japan for many years, but I don't know how renewables are going to play there necessarily. At one point, I'm going to get off tangent here, you're going to have the highest nuclear generation per capita in the entire world at one point, right? So we'll see how that shakes out. But looking at what I'm very excited about at this particular moment is the pricing of EVs and you're going to call me a little bit of a conspiracy guy here, but I have confidence in the idea of the robo-taxi from Tesla and other companies, right? But before that rolls out, the pricing of EVs seems particularly depressed. And I keep a real close eye on Auto Trader nationally, and I'm seeing Model 3s are definitely late model, fully warranted, 2022, 23 Model 3s. You can get in the low 20s, and that you can get that used tax credit. I think it's something, not a tax professional, but I believe if your adjusted gross income is below about $50 a year, single or joint, I'm not sure, but you can get a hold of that $4,000 tax credit, bringing that net cost down to in the high teens, right?
Right.
That's a 60 kilowatt hour battery bank.
Unbelievable.
Typically.
Yeah.
They also Model S's and Model X's, a little bit earlier years. I'm seeing higher mileage versions of those come up in the high 20s, mid 20s. you need to be under 25,000 to get that $4,000 used tax credit. Something people have never talked about that I just figured out. I'm not going to say it's my invention or a discovery, but by the way, check with your accountant, please. But I believe a salvage title is also applicable to the used tax credit.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
I did not know that.
I'm not kidding. So, and I actually read
Okay,
the
okay.
code, but once again, talk to your tax professional.
Yep.
So, what's exciting about why would I be yabbering on about this like a psycho? Why? Because imagine you go out and you say, I'm going to take one, and there's a way to get 2 of those tax credits. You get a new one and a used one in the same year, I believe, or there's some variations, but you can get 2 of them. You could go and buy 2 used, let's say, Model 3s, as an example. It could be anything, but the pricing works there. There's other ones in that price point territory. Hertz just did a big dump into the marketplace. I think that has to do with why the prices are so low.
Yeah.
Let's say you get a $25,000 Model 3, beautiful car, 30, 40,000 miles, 23. $21,000 net after the tax credit. And the tax credits, you can pretty much exercise them right away with the dealer on site. $42K net out of pocket for 2 cars. Slam dunk, right? Just that alone.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a system similar to I had, a pretty elegant but simple system, that's
A little oversized, but sure.
Sure. But I'm going to oversize it more if I get those 2 EVs, right?
Yeah.
And then now you're looking at, let's say, 60 kilowatt hours per car, right? Even if you get a little bit of loss, not much after it's a 2023
Right.
model year.
Yep.
You're looking at 120 kilowatt hours as an ancillary benefit to having 2 great cars.
Yeah.
How much would it cost you to get 120 kilowatt hours in stationary storage in your house?
Can you?
That's so much money.
No, I don't think you can stack anybody's batteries.
So we're talking about affordability now.
Yeah.
So we're talking about affordability, the opportunity, and to be able to generate energy and store it in the EVs, and then not only that, but then discharge at the types of things we're seeing in I'd say 3 or 4 main EV chargers that are talking about their power capabilities. Generally, starting in that 7 to 12 territory. Discharging from the car, from the vehicle.
Yep.
They're going to find their way up to the 22 to 25 kilowatt territory. We're talking about level 2 plus character. That's very, very fast. Almost lost my sunglasses. That's very, very fast, and that's a lot of power. If you can discharge that kind of power in your home, you really don't have a concern about energy resilience anymore.
Right.
Maybe if there's an EMP and everything gets fried. Okay. That's a problem. And contingency for that.
There's
right?
going to be a lot of, even traditional gasoline cars are going to have that problem as well.
Right.
I mean, that's not, they're not immune.
So that's a game. To me, it really is the potential of that hockey stick moment, especially given the fact that it's used and it's widely available and Hertz has dumped so much on the market. The ability to EV generation has always been over the last many years, inexpensive. These systems are getting more and more understood and more kind of simplified. These solar plus battery systems, load control systems, a lot of options out there. Now you sync 2 EVs up to this, and when BiDi comes out, there you go.
Yep.
That's the world where the entire infrastructure, in my opinion, my humble opinion, gets thrown into question.
Yep.
Why, if I can discharge tens of kilowatts out of both of my cars whenever I need it, I now have abundant storage in addition to my abundant
It's your car, it's your
generation.
energy. I mean, we've been saying it for a long time when bidirectional actually happens. And the reason why is simply because those batteries are so much larger than any home battery system you can reasonably purchase by many factors. It's like these 3, usually more like 8 to 10.
Right. So it looks like that's what is on the cusp. I love the fact that Rivian announced that just the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's pretty obvious that Tesla will do something similar, and many of the other car companies will probably follow suit. So,
and it looks like Volkswagen bought into Rivian to the tune of $5 billion to support that, but it looks like that technology is actually going back the other way. So Volkswagen Group cars may also feature that in the future. Nothing is announced yet, but it certainly sounds like.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So that's the update from the SolarCoaster, folks. We are going to be in Anaheim. We're looking forward to RE Plus 20th anniversary.
Yep, that's in September, right around the corner.
September. It's just a couple of months away, 2.5 months away. And of course, if you'd like to have your company a part of the SolarCoaster antics, fun, penetrating interviewing that we've been doing. We actually did a new program at RE Plus Hawaii, which was educational session interviews. So after the session is done, we grab them and get the kind of the gist of the session.
The post show kind of
Yeah.
commentary. Fascinating stuff, right? I mean, each
really
and every
is.
one of those sessions my mind was just a blur at the end.
And the
of that.
education sessions I've never really seen it fully make its way out into the social space, into the interview space. The booths, of course, were always
Yeah,
there.
it's kind of hard. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people miss out on it because
you're there a lot of the
there may
time
be an
it's just
extra
business.
cost, or you're just on the show floor and you're looking. I mean, you're there to do business. You're looking for a supplier. You're looking for a product. You don't always have the time. Absolutely worth your time.
Yeah. And so we're going to have an opportunity to be there with the big events and the parties, of course, doing SolarCoaster thing. And then we'll do some ed sessions in all likelihood. And then we'll spend some time on the show floor with probably a couple of different tracks. We're going to try to organize it this year a little bit better. We'll learn a little bit more each year and how to do it.
Yep.
But if you have a company that you'd like to have featured, we'll get you great
Story to
exposure.
tell.
A story to tell, 100%.
Need those.
We're particularly interested in Bidai, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Load control panels are another darling of ours,
Yep,
right?
yep, absolutely.
If there's any, I'm going to say it. If there's anyone out
If
there
he says
that's ready
carport,
if there's anybody out there that's coming in with anything nuclear, we'd love to talk with you because that's a really big conversation.
still a conversation, and we both believe it needs to happen, and we want to have it.
Yeah. So, of course, we haven't seen a lot of wind in the past. Right on the heels of, I'm seeing conversations about offshore wind again right now in Hawaii. And we, of course, have a former SolarCoaster alum, the Andrew Doba, the comms guy over at Vineyard Wind. We had him on a few years back when they were beginning the rollout of the AWGs in, what's the name of that space? The wind corridor. They called it a wind corridor up by where you guys are in Plymouth and Nantucket and all that area.
Oh,
What's the name of that place? They rolled that out. There's something like don't misquote me. I don't have the article in front of me, but like a few dozen, maybe 4
right.
dozen.
And these things are gigantic. If you've ever looked it up,
They respect 12 or 13. I want to say gigs or
meg.
yeah.
I don't think it's,
megawatt AWGs the last time we had them on the show.
Yep.
So it's really an exciting time with a lot happening in the renewable energy space, and of course, coming off of Maui, it hits us in a special way. So those are some of the changes to the SolarCoaster forward. My studio, the studio that was in my third bedroom in the Makawao house, is all packed away. I'm going to be a lot lighter moving around the world, and we'll see where we end up first.
this was also a good test. Here we are. We're still recording, still doing things.
Yeah.
And that'll never change.
There you go. Aloha, folks from the SolarCoaster. We look forward to seeing you at Anaheim. Any last word, Jay?
Oh, that's it. We're
All right.
looking forward to the trip.
All right. See you there, guys.
Have a good one.